The Virginia Department of Education is a national leader in the use of technology to develop and administer standardized assessments. Virginia's school divisions have been administering online tests to students for over a decade. These online tests contain technology-enhanced items in which the students might graph data or correct the punctuation in a writing sample, as well as multiple-choice questions. As part of the continuing effort to provide students with the best possible testing experience and provide teachers with reliable student achievement data, Virginia is adding computer adaptive testing to the Virginia Standards of Learning Assessment Program. So, what does CAT do? Computer adaptive testing, also known as CAT, provides a more personalized test experience for students. Instead of presenting the same questions to every student, an adaptive test is customized to each. The basic principle of CAT is to provide each student with questions which are challenging yet not overwhelming. Questions that challenge but don't overwhelm students may result in increased focus and engagement with the test, as well as provide reliable information regarding each student's achievement. In order to provide the most appropriate questions to students, the CAT follows two key steps: question selection and scoring. The questions for a computer-adapted test are contained in a bank. The bank contains more questions than any single student would see on the test. The questions are identified with difficulty levels, ranging from easier to more difficult. Each student will begin the test with a question of average difficulty, selected from the bank. The student answers the question and the response is scored. If the response is incorrect, the CAT algorithm selects a slightly easier question for the student to answer next. If the response is correct, the CAT algorithm will select a slightly more difficult question for the student to answer next. These steps repeat for each question until the required number of questions, as indicated by the test blueprint, have been administered. Let's look at some students as they interact with a computer adaptive test. This student's first question is of average difficulty. The student answers the question. CAT scores it as correct. Then, CAT selects a slightly more difficult item for the next question. This second question is answered incorrectly, so CAT selects a slightly less difficult question for the student to answer next. As the student progresses through the test, CAT continues to select the most appropriate test questions based on whether the answers are correct or incorrect. This process continues until the student has answered the designated number of test questions. The question selection and scoring process is applied to all students taking a CAT. Students will advance through the test at their own pace and receive questions of different difficulty based upon their correct or incorrect response to the current question. All students will answer the same number of questions to complete a test. However, the questions selected for the student are based on the student's own performance. As a result, each student's test is unique. Now, let's take a look at how these students performed. CAT test scores will be reported using the same scale as all other SOL tests, with scaled scores ranging from 0 to 600, with 400 representing the minimum passing score. For CAT, each student's scaled score is determined by the number of questions answered correctly in conjunction with the difficulty level of those questions. In our example, 2 students scored above the minimum passing score, while 1 student's performance is below the minimal standard. The addition of computer adaptive testing to the Standards of Learning Assessment Program demonstrates the continued commitment of the Virginia Department of Education to provide the best test-taking experience possible for students and to provide teachers with reliable student achievement data. For more information about Virginia's assessment program, visit our website, www.doe.virginia.gov/testing. For questions or comments, email our student assessment staff, student_assessment@doe.virginia.gov.